History and culture. How scientists are cracking the secrets of the world's oldest tattoos. Turns out, ancient body art is a lot more common than we once thought, and it's providing historians with new ways of understanding our ancestors. Archaeologist Aaron Wolf, pictured in his office in Nashville, is among the world's leading experts on ancient tattoos, an aspect of archaeology once overlooked. By Sam Keane. Photographs by Brian Finca. October 9, 2025. Some years back, a man wandered into Aaron Wolf's office in Nashville, at the Tennessee Division of Archaeology, to hand over a 2-foot portion of a mastodon tusk. The man had spotted the relic poking out of a riverbank and sawed off the exposed end. Removing the tusk sullied its scientific value, so Wolf started trotting it out during talks at grade schools, until a kid dropped it and its outer layers shattered. For many archaeologists, that might have marked the end of the tusk's usefulness, but not for Wolf. He salvaged a few shards and later transformed them into tattoo needles, carving each with flint and smoothing it on sandstone. But when he tried tattooing a colleague with one, it went poorly. Microfractures in the ivory snagged skin each time he withdrew the tip. It was, he recalls, a bloody mess. By day, Wolf surveys sites to assess the archaeological impacts of new construction. But in his spare hours, he's among the foremost experts on ancient tattooing, a field formerly discounted but increasingly recognized as offering vital insight into cultures worldwide. Once an outlier, he's now part of an emerging cohort of researchers showing the practice was more widespread than archaeologists ever knew, and helping reveal new meaning in a historically suppressed art. What Maui's tattoos in Moana say about Polynesia's tattoo culture. Hostility to tattoo research has colonialist roots, with missionaries and officials having considered the practice barbaric. As archaeology emerged as a discipline in the 19th century, its practitioners seemed to inherit this disdain, mentioning tattoos in their work rarely and pejoratively, a practice of so-called savages and deviants. And as Wolf learned early in his career, that attitude lingered into the 21st century. Now 49, he started as a Mayanist before switching focus to the pre-colonial southeastern United States. But a personal fondness for tattoos, he has a dozen, drove his side research. After he organized his first conference session on ancient tattooing, in 2009, an older attendee buttonholed him. "The guy told me, there are more tattoos of ancient art on graduate students than there ever were tattoos in the ancient world," Wolf says. He was 100% wrong, and it's not like the evidence was hidden. He just didn't care to engage with it. To determine what tools ancient tattooists may have used, Wolf has made replicas from various materials and tested them, as here, on a slab of pork belly. Triangles down Wolf's arm were tattooed using a mallet and a needle comb, a Polynesian method known as hand tapping. 2 of the bars on his wrist were made as part of an experiment to test deer bone awls as tattoo needles. And that lack of engagement, Wolf says, has led archaeologists to overlook critical details about those they're striving to understand, as tattoos throughout history have helped define group identity, marked rites of passage, signaled spiritual power. One way to combat colleagues' dismissive stance, Wolf went looking for how best to identify tattoo tools in the archaeological record. Doing so is tricky, since a pointy instrument from a dig site might have been used to apply ink to skin, or it might have been an awl or a sewing needle. How to tell the difference? 2,000-year-old tattoo needle identified by archaeologists. Wolf started by assembling other archaeologists and researchers who shared his interest, and together they launched a series of experiments carried out over the better part of a decade, some formal and controlled, others more ad hoc. For each, he made tattoo needles out of materials that ancient cultures may have used: feather shafts, deer bones, fish teeth, cactus thorns. And, yes, mastodon tusk shards. They applied either modern tattoo ink or a mix of charcoal, soot and water, what most ancient cultures would likely have used. Then he tried the tools out on volunteers and on pigskin, as well as on his own skin. The feather proved too soft, like tattooing with a Sharpie, Wolf says. He suspects a historical account that mentions tattooing with feathers was mistaken. The tusk was a debacle. But thorn and bone tools worked nicely. The porous structure of bone held ink particularly well. The feather proved too soft, like tattooing with a Sharpie, Wolf says. He suspects a historical account that mentions tattooing with feathers was mistaken. The tusk was a debacle. But thorn and bone tools worked nicely. The porous structure of bone held ink particularly well. And when Wolf and his team analyzed some of the tools microscopically, they noted distinct patterns of wear. Tattooing blunted and smoothed the tips and drove in tiny charcoal fragments. Today the published findings help archaeologists distinguish what is and isn't an ancient tattoo needle. After trying out tattoo tools, like this bone of a white-tailed deer, Wolf compares their wear patterns with those of objects from archaeological sites. Prickly pear cactus spines were a tattoo tool of ancestral Puebloans in what's now the American Southwest. Tattoo needles made from bundled citrus thorns have a history of use in the Pacific Islands and elsewhere. Among the tools in Wolf's office is a replica of a historical Marquesan needle comb, from Polynesia, which is used with a mallet in the process called hand tapping. But some insight into millennia-old methods can only be gleaned from ancient bodies. Enter Otzi, the 5,300-year-old Iceman discovered in the Alps in 1991. Researchers analyzing the 61 lines and crosses spread across his body initially suggested Otzi's tattoos were applied by slicing his skin with sharp stones, then rubbing soot into the wounds. Decades later, Wolf designed an experiment that would allow him to test that theory, collaborating with Maya Siala Koch Madsen, a traditional Inuit tattoo artist from Greenland, and Daniel Wrighty, a tattoo artist then based in New Zealand. Otzi the Iceman, what we know 3 decades after his discovery.